Hey guys, Blackwatch here, coming at you with another GU trade recap. I'll try to cover more so the trades that I took rather than just kind of the end of day markups that I usually do. There's kind of a lot going on this week in terms of ranges and kind of counter trend price action. We've been getting a bit of bullish pullback after kind of the last couple weeks or months of just bearish price action. So I know a lot of people have been trying to take shorts and they're getting a little confused by price action and that kind of stuff. And the biggest thing to remember is just that when price is pulling back, it's counter trend, and counter trend price action is typically not that clean. That's just kind of the way it is. So we just have to keep that in mind while we're trying to look for trades. It's usually best to not necessarily get in and out of the market, but understand the range that you're trading within and just lock stuff in. If you're doing challenges, just pay yourself. If you're trading your personal account, same, just pay yourself. Leave some on. If you open a 10 lot trade or something like that and you want to close it out because you feel good about the profits, just close 9 lots and let one lot run or half a lot run or something like that. And that could be the difference between your next car payment and or whatever else. You know what I mean? So and you should always practice swinging your trades and just holding through internal range liquidity and like that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyways, I'm probably gonna bar replay. I feel like even if I said I wouldn't, I probably would anyway, so I'll probably bar replay it. And yeah, we'll take a look at some of the trades I took, a couple break evens, a couple losses, a couple winners, and yeah, we'll try to go through it and kind of see what we get. Oh, also, there's a couple of 15-minute entries that I took. Again, I do take them often. It's usually just kind of, for me anyways, being in the US, I don't get to trade London because it's about 3 a.m. for me, but I do stay up pretty late sometimes, and sometimes I'll see like a 15-minute POI that I really like, and I think, if I can get enough information to understand where London might head, I might place a limit on that 15-minute POI. That's typically how I trade 15-minute POIs. It's just to try to catch them in that London move if I can't be there for it. But yeah, so anyways, I think you guys know the higher time frame quite well already. Obviously, again, we've been just quickly, right? We've been taking out a lot of this internal range liquidity. We've come into the extreme of this demand here, and this is where we're getting this pullback here. So in terms of the weekly, we're still showing pretty bearish intention, right? This week was extremely bullish, so big bullish candle on the upside. Just because we get a bullish weekly candle does not mean we're going to pull back. I mean, you can see here, right? Like we got a pull back there, but we got a big weekly candle here, nothing. Weekly candle here, nothing, right? The only difference is, I guess, this didn't take out the previous candle's high, and neither in this one. But there's definitely times where we got like bearish candles on this side, and price just continued upward. So there's still reason to think that price may want to trade short. If we look at the daily, this is kind of why I was again focusing on shorts, because I do want to try to catch a swing position from here. If price does want to trade lower, there's the possibility that price will want to trade higher. But for me, this level needs to fail first before I really start looking for longs. From an intraday perspective, longs are definitely on, but in terms of the daily, I want to see this hold, and I want to see shorts continued. Or potentially swept and then shorts continued, but we'll see. If it does get swept, we'll wait for 15-minute 4-hour order flow to kind of shift back to the downside. But yeah, we'll kind of see how that plays out. But anyways, yeah, we pushed aggressively into the daily. We got a big strong push to the downside, but price came right back up. So given that these highs were taken right here, depending on what happens early next week, we could see just bullish price action through this POI. And then if that is the case, I am potentially looking at the rest of at least this leg here, or to this point, as internal range liquidity, if we are going to start that bullish trend based on the weekly kind of flip zone there. And if we look at the 4-hour, right, this POI right here looks real nice. I do want to see price trade into this and kind of see what we get. We do have a sweep of liquidity here, right? And then we have that push to the downside. We also have this as our model, right? We get the demand reaction. Where's the first one? It's like right about here, right? We get that demand reaction, right? It sweeps this liquidity right here. And then we get that supply control, demand failure. Now price is coming back to press back into this POI. So yeah, definitely keen on finding potential entries here. My only issue with this POI in general is that we do have a window of imbalance right here, which means we need to focus on more of the range itself, right? So we'll see what happens when price gets here. But anyways, from a more intraday level, right, what we can see here is we did have a bit of like a weird candle, right? I think this was news, but we had a bit of supply in this candle. We'll have to go down lower time frame because there's definitely more in here, but it looks like we had price kind of give some pullbacks, right? And then eventually just pushed up. And that seems to be what price is reacting off of here. So I'm just gonna mark out this candle. We'll look at the 15, we'll kind of see what happened. Probably we do have a reaction there as well. Anyways, if price does take out this low, I imagine price will come for the rest of these, right? Because again, if price does come off of this bearish, we can assume the rest of this, depending on how it interacts with the demand nearest this, would be internal range liquidity, right? So yeah, so we just took out this high as well, which I did try to take some counter trend shorts, which I will cover with you guys. I took 2 trades trying to short it. One ended up being a loss, like an immediate loss, and then one was a break even, which technically should have been a loss, but I broke it even early because I had a 15-minute POI that I also wanted to long from. So I was kind of playing both sides of the market, and I didn't want to get taken. I didn't want to take that initial loss and then take a loss on this while I also tried to look for the long. So I covered my risk on the short and then took the long, and then just figured let one of them play out, and the longs ended up playing out. But so yeah, from the 4 hour, this is kind of what we were looking at for the day. We did have a flip zone in here as well, right? So we had some demand. We had this reaction right here, this kind of doji candle, and then we had this sweep right here. So before we got to this POI at all, we did get a bit of a reaction to this guy here, right? Again, I think this just is going to be the catalyst for pullback. I think we'll trade higher, but it is, again, part of the daily candle. This whole thing is just one big daily block. So we'll kind of see what happens next. We're definitely still kind of pushing bullish. We don't have any bearish intention here yet. We'll go to the 15. All right, so okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and bar replay it from here because this is where I started trading for the week. I can't remember if I took earlier trades. Whatever, we got a lot to cover, so I'm just gonna go over from Wednesday. So Wednesday is where I took a 15-minute POI entry, and again, so like for me, it was about 10 p.m. And that would be right around here or so, actually. So this is right. So the reason I took these shorts is because we tapped into that daily, right? And again, as I was saying before, like I really wanted to make sure that if we are going to run short from this daily, I wanted to get involved. I wanted to make sure that I was able to catch a swing position, and I got in right at the top here, which is nice. But ultimately, price wasn't quite ready to go down, right? And if you've seen in other commentaries that I've done or videos, whatever, you'll notice that price tends to, in higher time frame supply or demand zones, it'll range for a bit longer. You'll get highs and lows taken, and then kind of it be non-committal, and that's just building liquidity so that way price can sustain a longer term trend coming from these bigger zones. So, you know, like you could go and you can go map out these kind of things. Like you go to the daily or here and just like look at the average time that price takes to reverse, right? So here, right, we get some nice, it depends on how it plays with liquidity, right? So like in this case, right, we take liquidity, we get a sharp turn back. Here we play into a supply zone, and then it takes us like 20 days. Yeah, 20 days, right, to actually drop. Same thing here, right? We're playing off this demand zone. We get a sharp pushback. Totally fine, right? Again, that's just data that we're collecting. See here, price comes into another supply zone. What are we looking at? About 15 days or so, right? And it's just, you're just collecting data, right? So that way, when you start playing with these daily supply zones, you can get a better idea, 11 days here, right, of what the average time it takes for price to remove itself from various ranges. So we basically are averaging about 15 to 20 days, right, from these daily ranges. Here's 22 days. It's not super accurate in terms of what I'm drawing, but you can see like this is pretty rangy price action from here, 25 days, right? So it's not always the case, but there is definitely a commonality in how price interacts with various supply zones, ones that want to work anyways. Price tends to range for quite a while before it actually moves. So again, being in this daily zone, there's a good chance that we'll see something similar to it, potentially. Right, and that's why I said earlier, again, it's like it's good to get in and out of the market and just kind of be, aware that price, may not just run, right? So know your range, trade your range, get in, get out. Anyway, so I had a 4-hour POI here that I had marked up, and this was in relation to what? I can't remember. Oh yeah, it was this, right? So let's go back to the 15, see what's happening here. I think it's kind of hard to tell. It's not really coming off anything super significant. All right, all I had was just that within this leg, right? This is why I determined taking partials at this level, was because within this leg there just wasn't any real structure, right? There's a couple little demand spots, right? A little inside bar, a little inside bar, but it was only really here that we had some kind of like range or structure in price consolidation, and those are the kind of areas that we want to look at because they tend to make up good POIs. So when I was headed to bed, I looked at the charts and I saw this was what was this? This was just the day before. Miserable price action. Well, I mean, this was obviously really good, but this was towards the end of the day. Anyways, so we came into Asia, and then price started to make kind of a descending kind of bearish movement in price, right? And a lot of it came after we took out this high right here, right? So I saw that as a potential sweep of liquidity. I understood that we were in the daily. I was like, let me try to catch long or shorts if I can catch shorts. So I saw that get swept, and then I saw these lows here start to fail, right? And we hadn't quite taken this guy out yet, but again, we swept this and then we started to make bearish intention. So for that reason, I thought it was an okay idea to put risk on the 15-minute POI here at the top and then kind of watch what would happen, more or less, right? And when I do this, I'm not putting full 1%. I'm typically just putting on about 0.5%. And then if I have a safe target, I just partial out 80% and then see what happens there. So this was, I think, about 10 pips, if I remember correctly. Which POI? It was about 10 pips. So this is a little bit larger than I think I initially had. What was it? Whatever, it doesn't really matter, right? But this was the POI generally that I traded. I think you could go to like the 5-minute and potentially clean it up, right? There's a nice little candle there, but I didn't do that, so I'm not going to do that, right? But I just traded the 15-minute POI. I can't remember. I might have done this because it was around 10 pips. Anyway, right? So then I had 80% target here, just at the top of this range. Right, just because there's the only level of consolidation where I thought there might be some potential areas for price to react to. So yeah, I went to bed, I placed a limit on, and then when I woke up, it was about 6 a.m. We had already hit the POI right about there, right? And then I woke up, it was, what time was it? It was 6 a.m. Yeah, we were in this pullback, right? I actually missed a trade that I took, another trade, sorry. Right, so we were in that pullback. And again, 6 a.m. is about here-ish. So this is kind of where I woke up. So I had price come down, obviously really momentously. It wasn't even during Frankfurt or London. It actually tagged me in during Asia. So, take that with a grain of salt. But anyways, I woke up, I saw price was down here at this point, and we had that pullback. I knew that I wanted price into this level. We started to pull back, and I couldn't really justify why, right? So when I saw that, I thought to myself, it's either going to come take me out, or if it shifts back bearish before hitting this POI, I'll get back in, I'll scale in. So price started to push up, right? And then here we took out this high. And if I remember correctly, what I wanted to see was I wanted to see this low go here if it wanted to turn back bearish and then come back. Obviously, it could have just stayed bullish and it could have just went. But I said to myself, if it does take this low and we see intention for price, excuse me, to trade higher or to trade lower, then I would be interested in getting in. So we had price trade up and then back down and then right back up again. And then if I remember correctly, yeah, we swept this. Okay. So at this point I was looking at the lower time frame, right? So we'll scale down, and this was another pretty chunky stop loss. And then I know we pushed down, and then I went to the 1 minute, and the 1 minute, I didn't like the way it looked. Hold on a second. Let me go back to the 15. It was a 15-minute POI. Yeah, it was this guy. All right. So that was the sweep. I went to the 1 minute. I tried to find something. And in hindsight, it doesn't look that bad, but in the live market, I didn't like it for some reason. I think it had to do with just like this overall kind of range. I thought there were some like these biggish candles to the upside and the downside. I don't know, the POI, like the way I like to see the POI formed is usually, I want to see it formed and kind of like, you know, a demand reaction sweep and all that stuff. We sort of have that here, so it's not the worst thing. Again, in hindsight, it doesn't look too bad, but I think in the live market, I was a little hesitant with it. So what I ended up doing, because we had this kind of window of imbalance right here, right? We had this imbalance candle here, imbalance candle here, imbalance candle here. When we have the window of imbalance, what do? We can either take the whole range, which was huge, as like 15 pips. So I wasn't really interested in taking that after taking such a large stop on this guy. So I then went down to the 2 minute, because you can either do that. You can either take the range of the window of imbalance, or you can scale up a time frame or two. You can go to the 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute until something cleans up. You find a nice POI. So after going to the 2 minute, I like this one much better than what I was seeing on the 1 minute. Right? I just didn't know what to pick. Do I pick the extreme? Do I pick this guy? This is actually a reaction to this demand here. Not quite. It's reacting to this larger range here. So again, in the live market, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in terms of that. So I shifted up to the 2 minute, and then I threw a trade on here, which again, didn't yield me the best stop loss. But one of the things we have to remember is in the current market, we are dealing with a lot of volatility. Although at the end of today, which I'll show you, we had a lot of nice like 3 pip POIs for the first time in a really long time. So I was kind of surprised to see that. I wonder if it's kind of dying down. But I mean, like what we used to get, right? And it is seasonal. Things change, right, by season. You know, if we get like a nice 3 pip, you know, candle or something like that, right? And you'd enter on this, you might get like a 10 pip move, or like whatever, 50, we'll just say 15, right? This might be the average then. Now, the way the current climate is we might get like a 5 or 6 pip candle where we have to enter on, let's just say 6, right? But price will move further, right? We're getting like 30 pip moves, right? So it's all relevant, or it's all, I'm brain farting on the word, but you know what I mean, right? So it doesn't really matter. Our stops are bigger, yes, but price is moving further, right? So, you know, just keep that in mind. When you're seeing these huge candles and you're getting big stops, you know, don't worry about it too much. Just take the trade, make sure your analysis is right, and then go from there. So anyways, I took this, price came up, tagged me in here, and then I think that was it. And then what was my break-even point? My break-even point was this guy. And oh, for this one, by the way, my break-even point was that low right here. This is where I placed my limit. That's the one that ended up causing back. I said if price, I'm trying to actually remember, is that correct? Did I do that right? I can't remember. Pretty sure it was here, this low, right? So this is about where I entered my trade, and then yeah, price broke this low, and then it was break even from there. You know what? I'm lying. I didn't actually put I didn't put a break even on this one. You know why? Because I use Magic Keys, and you can only auto break even a trade when you're actually in the trade. I wasn't in the trade when I went to bed, right? So at that time, my stop was still open, so I could have just taken a full loss there. Not recommended, but it's just the reality of the situation. You know, I'm kind of playing with fun money at this point. This month was finished in like the first week of trading, so again, do as I say, not necessarily as I do sometimes, but I did not have a break-even point on that trade. I just went to, when I woke up, I managed it, but in terms of like a valid break-even level, it would have been this low if I was awake for it. All right, so yeah, so that one hit, that one broke even there, and then yeah, price hit target. If I remember correctly, I don't think I scaled in anymore. There was a nice scaling right here, but it doesn't exactly fit what we were looking for, right? Unless you considered this, maybe. I didn't really notice this before, but you have demand. You can see the reaction is this inside bar. The inside bar does not sweep anything, nor does it mitigate that POI up there. So you could have technically considered this your POI, right? So if you took that, that would not be wrong. My only issue is that there's no way that creates a 15-minute POI. Let's just look. Yeah, so right in here, the middle of this candle, right? So because that doesn't create a 15-minute POI, I don't think I would have looked at that to trade from, but I can see why price came to this level and then turned, right? I hope that makes sense. But I wouldn't have traded it because it doesn't create a 15-minute POI. Anyways, so let's go here, play forward. And then we'll fast forward to the next day. Just make sure I got this right. Yeah, and that was TP right there. All right. So for the day, I made a nice little, again, it's not, maybe it was 10R, not 10 pips. I can't remember. It was about 10R that I made on this trade. And then this one was about 9-ish, right? 9-ish R. So nothing crazy. That's about average, 9 to 10R. No losses for the day. I didn't take any other trades. But what I want to do now is I want to fast forward to another day. And I think it was in here. Yeah. So I think a lot of you guys caught this long. This long was so nice. I don't really want to cover it, to be honest, because I didn't trade it. I'm only supposed to be covering the stuff I actually traded. But I'll do it real quick. I'm not going to bar replay it though. I'll bar replay my scale in. So London came and it definitely went. So yeah, we had this 15-minute POI, right? So if again we look at the if we look at the 15-minute POI, right? Price came off of this range. We start to see this bullish intention, right? So we had just so we can mark it all up. We had supply. I'll move this over. Right, we had supply right here. Price came down, came up. It reacted to that supply. That's why we know we can call it supply. We can refine it. We can say it's that wick, whatever. We have the reaction, right? Then price pushed up. Supply now failed, right? So that's kind of our first sign that price wanted to trade higher. We had another level of supply right here, right? Price traded down, and then it traded right back up. So this should have made a new high if this one didn't want to do it. So now what that meant was the rest of this was to be internal range liquidity, because again, these start to become catalysts for pullbacks. So that means the rest of these become catalysts for pullbacks, right? And just internal range liquidity. So we can expect for price to trade higher from this point. Now, when price started to push higher, right, we then got nice London longs. So again, we had that bullish push here, this one, right? Really big bullish push, really easy, really clean 15-minute POI. It did sweep, right? We had little equalos here. You can see that little wick swept down there. All right. And this is, again, one of the reasons we don't trade chalks, because I think you would have considered that the high. This here was your little low. So you had the low going and then the high going. A chalk trader would have taken this and would have taken a hit. Totally fine, is what it is, but we would just wait for a little bit more confirmation. Price swept that low, and then we had price trade a little bit higher, right? We had, again, in here, we had these little buy to sell wicks, which is just the reaction to the supply zone. Price traded just barely above that, not quite enough to want to trade from it, but then we start to see that bearish or that bullish intention. So we can see here, right, just a slight push up, another slight push up there, and then price was pretty much gone. So this would have been the entry here, right? Another potential entry, see here, there's a window of imbalance. I think if we go to the 2 minute, where am I in terms? All right, would we have gotten in? No, I don't think so. So you would have had to take that first trade. You still have the window of imbalance here though, so you would actually want to go up one more. And then in that case, you just have the inside bar, which is pretty lengthy. Well, 7 pips, not terrible to be honest. But anyway, so yeah, that would have been the London long there. So again, a little sped up, a little condensed, but that's okay. Just want to get through it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover a, I took 3 trades here, and that sounds a little crazy. It's a little heavy for me. However, I was pretty adamant on catching some counter trend shorts, and I was kind of ignoring the overall like bullish price action for the day until it slapped me in the face, and then I was like, oh shit, it's going long, and then I took the long. That's just kind of the way it works sometimes, right? So we had price, if we go to the 15, right, we got a couple points of liquidity. We have, again, this here, we have this here. We just have some structural highs that, again, in theory should be weak, right? Based on this price action here, based on these supply failures here. If this stuff goes here, then we're definitely, you know, we're pushing higher, right? We have relative equal highs here. We got a lot of liquidity. We didn't quite make it to the POI, the higher time frame POI up here yet. So, you know, there's reason for price to trade up there. So I'm trying to remember, just see how price played. Which one? This one, right? So we took out the high and we started to pull back. I'm going to the 1 minute, right? I think this is this where I started to try to take counter trend trades? What time is this? No, God, no, I'm not awake yet. This wasn't it at all. We got to go to New York, sorry. What I want to see is that a 15-minute POI? Yeah, so this actually swept this, which was part of a reaction to this supply here, right? Which, again, just so you know, this supply right here reacted to this supply, which is why I'm not dragging this one all the way across. This one's the relevant one. This one's the one that gets the reaction. Comes down, this gets swept, and then it just trades higher from there. Not sure if there was an entry. If I wanted to trade from the long here, I would have wanted to trade probably from this POI right here, or yeah, probably just that. This guy. But it doesn't quite come back down, so it's okay. And push up. We take out that high right there. We get a nice little pullback. Stop. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep an eye on things. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, at this point, we're just like, we're working our way through the internal range liquidity, right? We're getting pullbacks. Why did we get this pullback? Tapped into this POI right here. Why are we getting this pullback? Tapped into this POI right here, right? And then so on and so forth. So again, the idea of internal range liquidity is that prices are going to trade through it. Don't just look for reversals in the middle of a leg. Don't just cut your trades off if you're down here because you're getting a pullback, right? Understand that price wants to trade through it. All right, it's not going to happen 100% of the time, but like if it's 60% of the time or 70% of the time and those trades just run, that's the kind of stuff that where you're going to make a lot of money on, and you got to capitalize on it. So let's press it forward. All right. So, okay, we take out this high right here, right? This is a 15-minute high, This is a 4-hour inside bar high, right? Which was less relevant. I'm just looking at it now. But this, I was looking at this as a potential counter trend trade because I had a couple POIs that I wanted to trade long from. I wanted to trade long from this guy. And I wanted to trade long from potentially this guy here. Although this one seemed very far away and was a bit of a far fetch, but you know, it's definitely feasible. I definitely didn't expect price to come down here, but I was looking at either of these two levels. Maybe it was this guy, I can't remember. So if we go to the 1 minute, right, I'll try to show you what I was looking at in terms of the actual losses. So we have demand here, right? Again, huge imbalanced candle. Technically, there's an imbalance on this candle as well. This doesn't have a wick. This wick doesn't meet the end of this candle. That's imbalance. Window of imbalance. I used this as my demand point, right? That was the reaction. Sorry, that's the reaction, right? The demand then fails. We swept liquidity to the left. We took the high. So I thought to myself, this is a pretty damn good level to trade from. I slapped a full 1% on it, right about there. The extreme is always valid, right? That's always in the back of my head. The extreme is always valid still. Now, if we were hitting this 15-minute POI, it was not the best target, right? But I had the idea that if by chance it wanted to trade lower and this was just internal range liquidity, this was the best place to possibly get in, right? So that was the idea. That was the point of throwing a full % risk on there. It was counter trend. I probably should have eased up a little bit, waited for a little bit more validation, but it is what it is. I traded it. We tapped that 15-minute POI. We come in, we get tagged. Right, I'm happy. I think I remember seeing like one giant candle to the downside. I was like, oh, perfect, this is gonna work. Right there, and then it came back up. It took me out. I was like, that's unfortunate. That's all right. I came in here and I took this guy right on the extreme, covered the high. I have no idea what my stop was. I got a market entry. Just move this one over. I got a market entry on that one, and I got it coming into the actual POI. So I don't think I got filled right at the edge here. I think I got filled a little bit higher. But again, it's irrelevant. I broke even on it. Price traded lower, right? And it messed around for a little bit. It didn't want to just push down. So when that started happening, I lost a little confidence in it, but it's abnormal for me to watch my trades in general. Normally I'm not watching this play out, but I told myself that if we could at least take out some of this demand in here, that I would then just break the trade even. I was targeting at this point this 15-minute POI because this one had already been tapped, if I remember correctly. I can't remember. If we go to the 15, I have to monitor this because I was also looking at the 15-minute for a potential entry. Right, so we had this 15-minute POI. This, sorry, it's hard to see with all these things here. This candle, right, was the next 15-minute POI because this one mitigated this one. So now I had a 15-minute POI here as well that I was potentially watching, right? And this is just trying to catch high momentum moves, right? You kind of have to follow the M15 POIs down the way. It's not always going to make it to one up here, right? You got to follow the ones that are here and there. Right, so this is kind of the same deal, right? We're just trickling upward. We took out this high already. There's a good chance with this kind of momentum that price may want to trade higher from here. So, yeah, what have I done? Right, that was a loss, right? This one, as soon as we took out this low here, we ended up breaking even. Right, which again isn't exactly the plan. My plan is typically to take out the low that caused a pullback, but I lost a lot of faith. Honestly, that price wanted to trade lower. I just didn't think it wanted to. So I covered my risk. I told myself, all right, cool. If it comes off this POI and we start to see bullish price action, I'm going to look for longs, right? So again, I had this risk covered already. I wasn't up that much in terms of R, so I didn't really care about closing it. It was like 3R, 2.5, yeah. So if it made it down here, great. If it didn't, I was going to be in long anyways if it gave me a setup. And then from there, I was just going to be, you know, good with that. So anyways, price traded up, right? And then we saw this big candle to the downside. I asked myself, what's it reacting to? I'm not really sure yet. And then I saw this and I was like, okay, I don't think we're getting to this POI. I took this as a range just to find my reaction, right? That's kind of all I wanted to see. And I told myself if that supply is going to fail and demand's going to take over, this is where I want to get involved. So price traded up, it traded above the supply zone. And then from here, right? Excuse me. Right, I looked for my POI. So in this case, we had that demand reaction. This I was happy with calling my sweep. Right, we took out this little supply low, we tapped that demand, and then we had that reaction to supply here. Supply has now failed. So I asked myself what was the best area to trade from, and it was this little inside bar. Right, and cover the low of that wick. Take this. All right, 6 pips ish. All right, get in, and then price range. My break even level is now here, right? Play forward. We ranged for quite a bit, right? And then here I get my break even, and then I was targeting this initially for about 15R. Actually, no, I lied. I'm sorry. I did not target that initially. I targeted these equal highs where the liquidity was for for about 13R. I was going to take 80% off there. Right, that was the plan. We take the liquidity. I take my partials. Let 20% ride, and then from there we had, if I remember correctly, I think there was a scale-in. I didn't take it. Let's just see. Must have been this guy off of this. Back to the 1 minute. Let's see if I can find it. So 15-minute POI in here. 15-minute buy, sell wick right there. Can't remember how this played out. Demand. What's in here? Right. So we have the 15-minute POI now. We have to look at how it's formed. Right. Supply just fails, fails, fails. That high fails. Here, there's a reaction to supply. I think this is what it was. Supply reaction. Doesn't quite sweep anything at all. Alright, so you look for this to get swept. There's a POI down here. It looks kind of nice, to be honest. I can't remember if this was... Is that the sweep? Maybe that's the sweep. Yeah, I can't remember. We have demand. Yeah, that's buy, sell, wicks. Sweep. Maybe it was this guy. Might have been this POI right here. I can't remember. I did not take this trade. Definitely not. Okay. Actually came to the extreme. It's alright. Yeah, so it looks like it wanted this dude right here. It's okay. This isn't the best reaction anyway, but that's all right. So anyways, let's fast forward to, let's see, give me a second. What? 15th. I'm trying to think, did I get into these trades? I should have marked up the 15-minute circles for you guys. Make this a little bit faster. I can't remember now. I'm gonna cheat. I'm just gonna look at this real quick. What is this? This one we didn't take. I think we're just gonna go right to Friday. Yeah, just gonna go to today's price action. There's 2 trades. I did not take that one. There's scaling there. So yeah, let's break this down. All right, so we will go to this. Now, one of the things that you guys have heard me say a couple times is, you know, it's something that's been around for kind of a long time, but the idea of like hedging the wedge. And essentially what that means is like when we have price action and it's starting to tighten up, right? So we got, it's expansive and then it starts to tighten, right? It doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter which direction price was originally heading from, but generally what happens here is that price is building liquidity on both sides of the market, both the bullish side and the bearish side. The idea of hedging the wedge is finding POIs that are just outside the points of liquidity, right? That might be viable for price to potentially take out that wedge liquidity and then trade to the upside or to the downside, right? Now this happens a lot. It happens like all the time. And you'll hear that hedge the wedge. And this is what that means. It means that price is going to use this trend line or this wedge or this whatever sell side or buy side liquidity as an opportunity for price to trade above into the next side of the liquidity. And then depending on where price wants to go, it could potentially trade lower or it could potentially trade higher, right? So the idea of hedging the wedge is to take both sides of the market. So that way, no matter which way the market plays out, you're in, right? Or you break even on both. You know, it's possible. So in this case, we had price wedging sort of like, if I remember correctly, is this and this. I'm gonna replay this guy back here. And then, yeah, so I mean, at this point, right, we're in the daily. We took out this high here on the 15-minute, right? We're showing a lot of bearish intention, right? We had this high here. We had this demand. The demand's kind of failing. Price taps into this, which is basically this range right here, which must be a 4-hour POI. Yeah, this guy right here is a 4-hour POI. So yeah, so price is just kind of playing around, right? And very choppy. It's pretty terrible London session, it looks like. But come New York time, let me just turn this on so I can see it, right? So New York is about here. And then we are going to the 1 minute. I mean, there's definitely trades in here. It's just, you really don't want to be holding it for too long. Anyway. So, all right, cool. So we had, again, prices just wedging, right? So we have liquidity on both sides of the market. What we want to do is we want to see price kind of take out the highs and lows and liquidity and just kind of see what is available for price to trade to and from. So we have a decent 15-minute POI kind of up here, right? So if price wanted to trade out of the liquidity zone and into it, could have traded lower. There's some wicks here as well. I'm not really sure what it traded into. I can't quite remember. Might have even traded higher. What is up here? So that's a reaction to that. This is potentially available liquidity. Yeah. Right, this is just the inside bar. This gets swept here. This candle sweeps this high. That's why I'm using this candle. This mitigates this guy. So in this mess of POIs, this is the only one that's untapped. This one's already tapped pretty significantly by these guys, right? So there's the potential for price to just trade into this. However, it's still within the wedge, so it seems unlikely. And then we have a lot of wicks and that kind of stuff here. So it's all pretty efficient price action, to be honest. So we'll see. Let's see what happens. All right, so we trade out. Okay, so that's just gone. That's done. So about here, I don't remember being a gap being there in the live market. That's kind of weird. Is this? Yeah, weird. Anyway, I don't remember that at all. Right, so we took out the liquidity, right, to the upside here, right? And we're hedging the wedge. We're looking for the short now, right? That's the idea. Right, price is still trading higher. This is why I hate bar replay. Anyways, we took out the high. We tapped into this. We had demand reaction here. All right, this inside bar. All right, price traded higher, but it started to trade lower. We got the little demand reaction here. Wanted to see how price reacted from that point, right? Now, I don't know if this was maybe not the best trade in terms of probability. However, the reason I took it was essentially just because we hedged. It was the idea of hedging the wedge. We took out this high, we tapped into the supply, and I knew I wanted to get short because I wanted to see price trade into this this liquidity, right, to the downside. And then the way I ended up playing price was just that it reacted to this demand here, and then we started to see price kind of fail to take this high and start to trickle away. The issue with this trade, again, is that it did not take out this demand, but we did start to see some slight bearish intention. But again, I'm gonna just say this isn't the best trade. So we had price build equal lows here, which is another reason I wanted to continue taking it short. We had the inside bar right here, and then we have this kind of wick here. This candle is a potential area to trade from. So when price traded, what is it? No, sorry, I'm trying to remember. What the hell did I do here? I definitely waited for demand to fail. I must have. I did not take this without doing that. There's no way. Okay, so this low failed. And then I think I took this POI. So the demand didn't fail in the sense of this, but we took out this low. So again, we failed to trade higher. In this, we started to see the bearish price action. We had liquidity to the downside. We took that liquidity. Price then traded right back into this POI. As soon as it did, I hit shorts on it. And then I targeted the sell side liquidity. The buy side liquidity, excuse me. Right there. And then you can see this wick came right back into the POI, right? That's where I got in. That's what I shared on Instagram today anyways. Again, it's not the highest probability. The reasons I took it, they're there, right? We have supply chain, right, all the way through here. We have the hedge, we're hedging the wedge, we're taking the liquidity from the top side of the market. You could say this is demand, I guess. I didn't mark it at the time, but looking back, I can say it is. But again, I didn't mark it at the time, so I don't want to say that I did when I didn't. And then I took this short here. And then again, I'm just targeting the liquidity to the downside. Right here. And now we are out of this trade. I took it off completely because again, Friday we are intraday traders, right? Typically, we should be anyways. Friday likes to range. Sometimes it reverses, but often trading within the ranges is the best bet. So then we had price pull up. We took out that liquidity. There was no buy opportunity. What you can see here is that we had a bit of that chain. Right, price taps into, I believe, this guy here, if I remember correctly. Right, and then we have a bit of demand that we can kind of watch out for here. The inside bar as part of our chain, right? All right, we get that reaction. And then demand fails right about there, is it? Yeah, so the demand fails there. This is a potential scaling opportunity. I didn't like it because I was actually looking at this guy, right? Because this is my initial reaction, right? This is part of the supply chain here. So I had my order ready for this guy here. Price ended up coming off of this. I get why. It's just part of the flip of this demand. I just like that one better. But yeah, price came off that. It dropped, right? Took out, I can't remember if it took out this low. It actually might have come off of this as a POI, right? So again, when we're hedging the wedge, liquidity was taken to the taken here, and then liquidity was taken here. This is a pretty decent POI. But again, we need that confirmation. This didn't really react to any supply. It just kind of reacted in the sense that it's holding, right? So looking for longs from this level is not ideal unless we get something a little bit more significant. If we look at the 15-minute, right, we want to look at this. Do we have any POIs that we can look at? This one looks pretty good, to be honest. And then the extreme. Right, so pretty chunky area here for a POI to potentially trade long from. But yeah, if it sets up, it sets up. So 1 minute. Oh. All right, so that area ends up failing. Price reacts, we start to see that bullish push to the upside. I would like to see price coming to here. I remember it doesn't. We have this supply reaction as well. So there's a POI there, or potentially it's just liquidity. But if I remember correctly, price has not quite come back to that. But you know, if we're following the model, right, what we're looking at is we're looking at supply reaction. There's no sweep, right? So we're going to stick to the fact that this is just liquidity. And then we have this, which is the extreme, which you could argue is a reaction to this right here, right? That's the reaction. This is a sweep. So you do have a strong case for this POI here, right? Just put it forward. And yeah, price is pretty much long gone at this point. Right now we have all this supply chain here, right? It's not going to hold again. This is at this point, once we start taking these out, it's just internal range liquidity, right? So we have a couple extreme points. We have this high here, and then we have, I mean, that's pretty much it. Well, the only issue is, I guess we have a window of imbalance. So if we're looking at this from a range perspective, right, we have full mitigations all the way through here. The only thing that could potentially stick out that isn't quite mitigated, it's hard to say. I mean, there's these wicks here, but that's I mean, I wouldn't trade off that unless there was just a reaction. But let's just mark it up. All right, so prices in those wicks, we just trade for. Okay, so it actually did react. Oh, that's crazy. I don't remember how this day ended, but we have a nice POI right here. We have demand. This is when it gets choppy like this, right? Look for the sweep. Where's the sweep? Right, this is the sweep. That little wick, that candle. So we can use this as our demand, right? Because again, we just want to justify this wick. Why did price come down into this POI and then react like this? Because that's demand, right? So we have that initial reaction. So we have a pretty decent POI right here. I don't know, there might be a window of imbalance situation going on here, but this is so far away. I usually like to see the windows like kind of closer. Not that it really matters. Like, I mean, you have it here as well, right? But that's not relevant to the POI, so it kind of doesn't matter. So anyways, you have this. It's looking pretty decent. Because it's kind of like this trade, right? where price started to kind of trickle away and you get this little supply chain. It's kind of the same thing in here. It's not as clean, but there's a bit of a supply chain in here, and this is totally unmitigated. And then you have some catalyst for pullbacks within this guy, right? Right, so you get a reaction. That's just liquidity. It's a potential POI, but it's unlikely. Here again, where's the sweep? This is the lowest point of that candle, which cover this. Do we get a reaction? Maybe it sweeps it. Yep, sweeps it. Now it's trading higher. Right, could probably long something in here as a counter trend. Yeah, see how it chains? Now it's chained, right? If price comes into this POI and it drops to the downside, what's this chain? It's just liquidity, right? Right. There we take out all that liquidity. Price is just kind of chaining here a little bit as well. Probably could have traded within this, to be honest. Let's see if there's an actual opportunity in there. Demand. Right. There is demand here, but it doesn't. See this. Nothing. It doesn't. This doesn't react to anything, right? It's reacting to something over here. Again, it's just a window of imbalance. It's reacting to something over here. So this doesn't quite get the reaction. You get these Bias wicks. I don't know if it actually taps anything. No, not quite. All right. So then we have this demand, which gets a very clear reaction. Then you get the supply chain. That demand fails. You could take it here. You could take it here. You could take it here, honestly. Right. A lot of opportunities to get in. All right. Once you start to see that bearish structure, right, from the reactions, just take it, right? Or it's the same thing right here. I said you could have probably taken a counter trend long. You're just getting the bullish reaction from taking this low, but we haven't finished taking out the internal range liquidity, right? So if we're talking about internal range liquidity, this is all internal range liquidity. That's the extreme. This POI is still probably in play. The only issue now is like super late in the day, right? And if we look at it, right, is this a 15-minute POI? Let me clean that up. Yeah, it is, right? 15-minute POI. 15-minute POI is formed in a way that you can throw a risk entry on this 1 minute, right? Decent stop loss too. This is what I was saying earlier by price kind of shaping up a little bit better for potential like smaller stop losses and that kind of stuff. So at this point, it's like super late in the day. I'd probably just target this supply right here, to be honest, if I was going to get into it. All right, just play forward. We are in. And if you were trying to find confirmation, it definitely would have been this POI right here. Right, again, what is all this stuff? We're taking out supply, internal range liquidity. We'll probably get a pullback here. Maybe not, we'll see. It should target it. Yeah, there's that pullback, long it from there. Off it goes, right? And then we're out, right? It can be super hard, you know, especially if you're still learning. It can be simple if you just don't think too hard about it, you know, but you can't get to that point without putting in, you know, the time and effort on the fundamentals. You know, it's our job to try to articulate it in a clear and concise way, but you have to also remember that, like, we've been doing this for a while, for one, and two, you know, not only have we put in our own time and effort, but we have like hundreds of people a week sending us validation, right? Showing us the model that we're teaching you guys. We get DMs, we get, you know, chats in Discord. Does this look right? What I do wrong? And we spend our days analyzing charts. So we have this kind of unique experience where not only do we have the experience of our own work, but we also get to soak in the experience that you guys put in, which is why sometimes it seems to look somewhat effortless or just kind of nonchalant or whatever. It's just we've got kind of an exaggerated experience gain in the last 2 years since Phantom inception. So, just keep that in mind, right? Everybody's going to work at their own pace. What's reasonable for a trader is just doing what you can with the time that you're given, making sure that it's efficient work. Don't worry about whatever the hell's going on Instagram. Don't worry about whatever the hell kind of, bullshit people are feeding you about this and that. It's like, it seems to be the new, Forex fuckboy lifestyle is no longer Lambos and Rolexes, but it's like being like, pretending to be like, I don't even know how to put it. I'm not going to say anybody. But look, just put the work in, right? And just stay in your lane. Just do what you're supposed to do if you want to get there. If you don't want to get there, continue to slack off and do whatever. But, it's just a matter of putting in consistent effort. You guys just have to make sure that whatever you do, you try your hardest. So that way, if at least you can say, like you did actually try. Because I do get the feeling that a lot of people just kind of burn through content. They just kind of go through the motions, and they're not doing exactly what they should be doing. And Brad wrote up that roadmap, and that roadmap's got a lot of gems in there for getting started and pushing through this journey, especially how we kind of lay things out. So just make sure you do the best you can, because not for nothing, like, we love teaching you guys on that kind of stuff, but we also value our time, and we don't want to, like, I can safely say from the hundreds of people that I've coached in the last 2 years that only a handful of people actually put in the work. So if you are one of those people who are putting in that work, you'll get there. Just keep working. But anyways, I'm rambling. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. And here's to next week. Hope you guys smash it. All right, see you guys.